Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Full Course Yellow. It's our last edition for 2021. I'm not sure what we'll talk about tonight. It's been nothing's been really happening much in the world of motorsport over the last few days. I mean, there's been a few speedway meetings. I think a bit of drag racing around Australia. Not sure what's been going over the seas. But we might ask our gang of regulars if they know of anything that's happening. I think there was a Formula One race somewhere. Not sure what happened there. Let's find out. Let's join the regulars. Stuart, Chris, Doc, and Peter joining us once again. And yes, now before we start, let's lay a few ground rules for everybody. Let's keep this civil and keep this respectful, and let's try not
Why
to.
Would we want to start now?
We do want to.
You go then. We'll drink.
There's been all sorts of all sorts of chaos coming up. But
we had a business lunch earlier this week, Brett, and we kept it civil, and I had a good laugh.
Well, that's it. Well, hopefully people will say the same thing. Box, pointing out to Mad Cow Mark that he went for Hamilton, and so did Mark for there. So he's happy.
Yeah, okay, I went. I just on that note, I think I was the only one in the virtual reality around me that went for Max as well too. But we'll just leave that one there.
Yeah, I think it was you and Mark might have been the one. Might have been the ones, but we've got, a special guest referee, Michael Massi. We'll go into that. Yeah, good day to Tony. We've got Virtual R, Roy's joining us. Good day, Roy. How are you? Good evening,
hey, guys.
David Howard also joining us. Good evening to David as well. So welcome everybody. We'll just flip over and we shall fire up something down the bottom there to let you know what's happening. We'll hide that, and we'll start off. Pete, I mean Formula One, and I gather you were up and watching it all. I mean, it was looking very solidly like a Lewis Hamilton victory. And then what happened?
Nicholas Latifi crashed, and they brought out the safety car. And they managed to clean it up in time to have a one-lap dash where they only let some unlapped cars through, which apparently they're allowed to do. So I think ultimately it's a matter of tightening up the clauses in the articles of the rules is what needs to happen. But I'm not a fan of one-lap dashes in car racing anyway. I'm not a fan of. I'd rather it's the lesser of the two evils would be to let it finish under the safety car, even though it was a championship race. And even domestically, I'm not a fan of one-lap dashes.
Yeah, of course. I mean, in NASCAR, they have the green and white checker. That concept, but that's clearly not going to work, and that in itself is given some really strange results on occasion. So that can, like anything can happen in that situation. I think that's what is how Bubba Wallace got his win in NASCAR earlier this year. It was a green and white checker situation where pretty much everybody else ran out of fuel on the last lap, and he went through for a win. So it was interesting.
The difference with the green-white checker is it's come out of oval racing, and the one-lap dash does work for things like sprint cars. It does not work for Formula One.
No, and
I have opinions on this.
I'm not surprised. We'll get to them in a moment, because we'll find out from.
Yeah, I'll just throw in some headlines there so people can see.
Just stir up the dust.
He's not happy.
Mud in the water.
Chris, did you see it at all?
It's just different when the people at all. Cheating.
Well, Chris,
I saw nothing.
You saw. Well, in that case, would you like a job as new race director of Formula One?
Is this an episode of Hogan's Heroes? Nothing. I know nothing.
I know nothing.
Nothing. This is what? Well, you're just Hogan's Heroes. You want to try? Where's your best Schultz impersonation? I know nothing.
I know nothing, or the one as
I
has been
understand
pointed
it's
out.
now Sir Lewis Hamilton to you.
It is, yes. It's like he got the gong, he got the.
He did.
So yes, he got like every sports person in England. I mean, let's face it. If they win this current test, if they get up and win that, they'll all get knighthoods as well. I mean, when you consider that John Surtees, who won world championships on both 2 wheels and 4 wheels, and was a constructor, and just had an amazing career right throughout, many years. Never managed to get a knighthood. And Lewis had, look, I have no problem with Lewis getting a knighthood when his career is over.
No problem with Ian Botham getting one.
Yeah, when his career
Botham's career is over.
Yeah, when their career is over,
You happy with
look
Beefy
back
getting
on
one? Beefy got one. Yep.
Well, that was the point. I mean, pretty much everybody was like, you get them in Wheaties packets, like if you're an English cricketer. But because I mean, that's part of the deal over there. It's part of the establishment. So
you're serving your country.
Yes, well, but I think, as I said, I've got no problem with Lewis for all he's done in terms of what he's achieved on the track. I got no problem with him one day being, but I just think it's way too early at the moment to be giving him.
Well, when he retires, he'll become king of England then. So anyway,
look, it's not beyond the realm of possibility. Anything can happen in that soap.
He gets another upgrade when he retires. Anyway, we're getting slightly off topic because we've all got opinions to say, and there's obviously relevant information. So keep going, guys. Chris, you, aside from the fact that you know nothing, did you want to comment on your nothing?
Nothing at all.
Okay, sitting on the fence. You get splinters there.
The thing is that, like if you have a look at it, as Pete was saying before, if you have a look at it purely by the letter of the law, Michael Massi, technically can do, because the rules were so badly written, because it effectively said, here is the procedure under a safety car, here is the procedure if you decide to let the cars through. However, straight after that is another part of the regulations that said, however, if you want to ignore all the previous regulations, go ahead. I mean, it really is up to the race director to do what is happening. And the problem that I had with Michael Massi is the fact that he said to everybody, including, of course, Red Bull, no, the cars are not going to be allowed past. And then within the space of half a lap, suddenly decided, yes, the cars are going to be allowed past, but only the cars between Lewis and Max, because as you can imagine, and as Dan Ricciardo is saying,
they rigged the race.
That's not
I wouldn't know.
They didn't
That
rig
is
the
rigging the
Come
race.
on, that's
they
not
allowed
rigging the race.
somebody who was on fresh tyres to be right there behind somebody who was. If they wanted to be fair with this, they should have let every lapped car pass. Not one, not five,
nobody.
All of them.
Or they should have red flagged.
It's the same rules.
In that particular case, he didn't rig it. He was just in the right place at the right time to get those tyres when the safety car came out. That was just timing. That was. It wasn't. That wasn't a deliberate.
Hang on. If all of the lapped cars were let through, they'd be fine. And yes, it would have been a race based on tyres.
Yes,
but
I agree with that.
The fact that they only cleared the ones between them, not all
between
of them,
first and second,
means they were only using the rule to create a situation.
You're using the rule to get first and second back to back with each other.
To create a headline.
Yes, no, you're actually just getting the cars out of the way. So you've actually got first on the racetrack is with second, so that there's no one between. So first is first,
fine, but
and
if you're
second,
use
and second's
all
not
the
10.
lapped cars are unlapped. You've got to have all of the cars.
Yeah,
unlapped,
wait a second,
not
and then
just the ones between those two.
Yeah,
hang
on, forget about the ones behind him for a second. The reasoning behind
we can't separate it. That's what they did.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying that's what you should do. That's what you should do. I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm talking about what actually happened. The whole and the principle of it is to, and I'm not saying you shouldn't do it as well. So furthermore, that's what should happen. But the principle of it is to getting rid of the unlapped cars is to have whatever race, whether it's 1 lap or 100 laps to go, because it does happen throughout all categories across the world, is to get 1 through to 2, through to 3, through to 4, through to 5, to have a proper shootout fight for position for whatever laps are left in the race. So therefore, 1 should be there, 2 should be next, 3, 4, and so forth. So as you said, so what he's done is actually he's got 1 through to 2 ready for the fight. But as you said, he should have got furthermore the ones behind it. So that way 3's now in position, 4's now in position, 5's now is in position, that sort of stuff.
And that would have been a far more interesting finish.
Yeah, without reading the tea leaves, he's probably got in his mind, I don't want to end up on a yellow flag running around just in a procession. And the only real fight is probably 1 and 2. 3 and 4 onwards don't really bloody matter when it comes down to the race today or the championship. So once he's done that, he's let them fight it out from that point. What he did, though, was obviously because of the timing of the safety car and when it exactly was, and with the location of Verstappen on the lap, he was able to box, as they say, and that's a lovely analogy, and it created an unfair advantage in the circumstances of what was left.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't unfair. I think
the people doing the judging cheated.
I think to an extent,
I don't think it's cheating either.
What Mark is saying here, I think there's a degree of that. Maybe trying to make up for the stuff up at the start of the race. I don't think that he should have. I don't think Lewis should have given the lead back to Max on it there, but he needed to drop back considerably.
Yes, he did need to drop back
because he did make a really he did get a considerable he did get a considerable advantage out of it. However, I mean, when you look at it, I mean, from that point on, Max was never going to win that unless everything happened that actually happened. Max was never ever going to win that race. Lewis was going to drive away and win that. Was going to win that race without any doubt about it at all. But to their credit,
the difference is on that first lap one. Yeah, on that first lap one, even if Lewis had turned in and stayed parallel to him, he still would have been off the track limits, because where Max's line, the maximum turn in you could get on the car at that point, put his right-hand wheels out on the curbs already. So it's effectively Lewis avoiding an incident is why he's run wide.
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt
else he could go.
There's no doubt about that. But
if Lewis had turned in, he would have taken both of them out. The race would have been over there. The stands would have been empty by lap 2.
And Max would have won the championship. That was the point. I mean, Lewis had no point. I mean, Lewis drove Lewis did the right thing. He got out of the road, but the problem was he instead of dropping back, to basically where he was,
he took advantage of the situation.
He took advantage of it, and Massi should have said, no, he's got to drop back. He's got to drop back a bit more and redress,
drop back to within a car length of behind you. That way it's safe.
But
I would just like to quickly point out, Virtual R's comment, there's not enough popcorn. In the whole world, there's not enough popcorn for them.
The interesting thing is, I mean, it's in many respects it's had the desired effect. If the desired effect from Liberty Media was to get Formula One on the front pages everywhere, it's just it's certainly done that, because there's been a whole heap of media and a whole heap of attention right around the world from people. I've seen a few things on YouTube from like mainstream media, particularly in the United States, like saying to Formula One people, you got to explain this. What is going on? Why is this such a big deal? Oh my God, this is amazing. Where do we see these guys in America next year? I mean, it's just imagine. Providing it happens. Imagine the feeling when they get to Albert Park next year. Imagine the noise from the crowd. Hamilton versus
other than both of them crashing out on the last lap. It couldn't have been
a bit of controversy is wonderful for publicity.
I was about to say other than both of them crashing out on the last lap and still ending up even on points and have to do the count back, which Verstappen still would have won. It couldn't have been more, and obviously completely crashing out in the last lap, smashing into each other. It couldn't have been more controversial, because it's created worldwide headlines. And look, a lot of people have said it's been probably even up until that point of that race. Even the drama that's followed since. It's probably been one of the best Formula One seasons for years, because the closeness of the two drivers at the front. The Constructors' Championships were close as well too. So that both teams had a lot in stake for it as well too. Not just supporting their drivers out as much as possible. They wanted, Perez and obviously Bottas was in the mix as well too, to a certain extent. They had to do the team thing. They had to support their main drivers to help them out. Perez obviously assisted to a certain extent on fighting it out with Lewis Hamilton fair and squarely as well, though, too, on the track. That was actually more square than the turn one bloody cutting each other off rubbish. So, drivers do that all the time, in team mate stuff. So I reckon, look, as I said, I stayed last week before I made no tip. I said both of them are fantastic drivers. Both of them have been awesome. They've got the heritage. They've got the great, the genes, and it's been great for the sport. And I really didn't care when I just said it would be good that if Max won, because Lewis has already won a heap anyway, more than a handful. So it's, and you know what? It might actually just finish off on that. It might even push Lewis to give it another couple more years, because he doesn't want to go down without a fight, and might go on another couple more seasons. He might do an interview in a couple of years' time saying, that's the one that really sparked. I might have actually considered retirement after if I won that one. That might have been that actually pushes him for a couple of more years.
It just would have been nice if Max had won the championship without them needing to resort to the controversy. If it had been a clean fight the whole way, it would have been a lot better.
Pete, hang on a second, Doc. Pete, what were you going to say?
The one I feel for in the long run is George Russell, because I think Lewis really, really wants that 8th World Championship. And I think if he had have got it this year, George would have got an easier ride being a number 2 next year.
Yeah, and Lewis basically said that before. He said, when they said, if you win, will you retire? And he said, no. He said, I'd like to hang around and and help the team, and also help George in his transition, and help him in his desire to win a championship. So, yeah, I think at the moment, I think as you say, Lewis will now get there. There's no doubt Lewis wants that 8th championship now, and he will be fighting very hard for it next year. And George will suddenly find himself probably getting no favours now. If he was ever going to get them, he's not going to get any now, because both the team and Lewis are going to be very, very determined to get up and get that 8th championship. That is providing, of course, like we're saying that if it's all over, it is not, as far as there is still the chance that this is going to go to court. Mercedes are still considering.
They've got 24 hours left.
What's going to happen.
Tomorrow morning.
They've got 24 hours left. It's Friday, their time, not ours. So
I hope they don't. I really do hope they take the line that Porsche took in the World Endurance Championship in GTE Pro, and they just say, look, for the and say for the good of the sport. Max is a deserving champion, because let's face it, if it did go to court, and if by some chance Mercedes won and they reverse the decision or something like that, just imagine if there's people out there who for whatever reason dislike Lewis now, in wrestling terms, he would become the biggest heel in world sport. Just everybody would, he would be just booed everywhere. People and Mercedes would be copying that as well. So
it made Adam Goods look like peanuts compared to booing Australia.
So just accept the decision and say, okay, let's move on.
And on that note as well, though, too, people still can comment after this. Both drivers went out there and they did their best. They took it up to the racing limit, maybe even crossed the line a couple of times, and they were penalised. Sometimes they got away with it, sometimes they didn't. Sometimes they had a decision in their favour, and sometimes they didn't. I'm sure if any decision was made and they had a bearing on it, they'd be. I'm not to blame all year. I'm not today, obviously, but both drivers went out there and they gave it their hardest to a certain extent without, absolutely deliberately smashing into each other, even though they pushed it to absolute limits. So you can't blame the two drivers to a certain extent for going out there and giving their best when you're the world title holder of the number one motorsport in the world.
And speaking of the drivers and the teams, it's the two team drivers for both of them that actually really need a strong mention, because both of them played an influence on the finish in the race. Both of them could have messed up their opposition.
Perez did.
They
Perez
raced
did a great
cleanly.
Job.
Yeah, both teammates did a great job in that race of both helping their teammate but not causing any issue with the opposition teams.
Yeah, I'm not sure that Valtteri...
The teammates drove a fairer race.
But this is the reason why Mercedes are replacing Valtteri. Valtteri once again qualified really quickly, but he wasn't in a position, as was pointed out. Somebody pointed out, I think it was Tiff Nadell pointed out, that if Valtteri Bottas had have been within 2 to 3 seconds of Max Verstappen, then Max could not have taken that. Could not have taken that pit stop. So under the circumstances, Valtteri was way too far behind. He wasn't quick enough. Yeah, well, and he's done that a lot. He's been really quick in qualifying. He's been at the front. He's either been first, second, or third, and then by the time the first lap is finished, he finds himself back in third, fourth, or fifth, and he just sort of drops. Yeah, he just sort of drops back, and he's not a factor anymore. Whereas Perez, as we saw on this week, on a couple of occasions now, has been a real nuisance value. He's either been close enough to Lewis that it's made it impossible for Lewis to just take a free pit stop, or he, in the case of on the weekend, he's managed to get in front of Lewis and slow him up. He slowed him up by it was about 6 seconds a lap, and he didn't do anything illegal.
No,
and the retake pass was
just
beautiful.
on the just what Virgil R saying in there. I actually said that earlier this week, Virgil R. I actually said 5 laps, but you 3, 5. I thought that was just an option that they could take, but we're only just in the southern hemisphere in a big island down here with lots of sun and sand, so and things lots of animals that kill us. So they're not going to take much note of us. They just send down a Grand Prix once to keep the southern hemisphere happy each year when they can.
On the Saturday, I think it was Mick Schumacher, but I'm not sure. I can't really remember. But on the Saturday, I think it was Mick Schumacher crashed in the same position that Nicholas Latifi did, and Michael Massi was asked, tomorrow if that happens, will you red flag it and restart it, have a standing start? And he said, no, I'll put a safety car out.
Yeah, and it probably didn't need a red flag. I mean, it was like in terms. I mean, that would have been as contrived as anything else. Whether it was, I mean, whatever they did, it was just, as I said, my argument against Michael Massi, and this has been all year, and because we've been able to hear it. Now, the interesting thing is today it was announced the FIA are going to have a full investigation into the situation. They're going to see what can be learned from the fallout of all of this. One of the things that is being lobbied heavily, and I hope that it happens, is that they're hopefully going to stop the teams lobbying race control during the race. I mean, Doc, as we mentioned this on Monday, you're a football umpire. You do that every week during the season. It really is like the case of you've got like a couple of earphones in, and as you're sort of you blow the whistle, and suddenly you've got the coach of the Pakenham Parrots or whatever they are going, no, Doc, no, that wasn't a push in the back. That was never a push in the back. No, let's negotiate. And you can't administer any sort of sport like that.
Absolutely agree, Brett. And just touching on that, so and it's nothing. It's the Pakenham Parrots probably a little bit under our thing, but I umpire at a senior level just under the VFL level. So there's AFL umpires, there's VFL umpires, and then there's me. Unfortunately, I'm one of the bloody twats and idiots that goes out there and has to blow the whistle.
He's the only one.
Yeah.
He's very busy on the weekend.
But however, so the point is though, Brett, on that level, then I think because the reason I just spelt out where I am on the hierarchy. We're actually, in fact, over-scrutinised because you've got the AFL guys that obviously have every single camera in there mic'd up and they don't have to talk, but they get completely listened to by the media, by what we were watching on TV, and obviously by the Umpires Association that are reviewing the game. You get VFL level, which you've got every talent scout for AFL and the Umpires Association watching them because they're the up-and-comers and they're going to be umpiring an AFL game, so they need to get it right. And then you've got us, certain maggots underneath them again, that the whole crowd just goes nuts at us. They just absolutely vilify us. We get called every name under the sun. So, as you said, if you've got...
Yes, I'd like to apologise for that, actually.
You've got something in your ear, and what's that? Sorry? What was that, Brad?
Roll on.
Just
play on.
Carry on, yes.
Just the peanuts in the crowd again. But if we've got everyone judging us and vilifying us around the ground. You know, you got coaches swearing their heads off to a certain extent, which is not a good look for obviously families and kids out there. If you've got someone in your ear, it's very hard to make a clear decision and carry on, especially when you've got, 25, 30 minutes of full-on action in front of you, because it doesn't stop unless there's a goal kicked. And sometimes there's only a goal or two kicked in a whole quarter. You've got 30 minutes of full-on action. And if there's only two of us on the field, which has been a shortage this year to umpires to a certain extent, you cannot concentrate. Doesn't matter how experienced and how calm and how collected you can be, you can't have someone in your ear barking orders at you and be concentrating on half a dozen things at once.
Well, Richard has joined us now. Hello, Richard, and I haven't spoken to you since that. Since there, you sent me a message or two. But what was your as a driver? We've heard from the spectator, but as a driver, what was your take on it all?
Okay, my one take outside the race. I think it was Lewis's greatest moment to be so magnanimous at the end, because I would have kicked the cat several times if I was him. I would have been so
lucky there's no cats around.
Yes. But you see, I don't even know what the rules. Is that completely at the discretion of Michael Massi? Was it?
Yeah.
Well, ultimately it is, because that's the problem. Yeah. There is basically there is a procedure to be followed in such a circumstance. But then at the end of it, the last regulation says, oh, by the way, these are the procedures. But in the end, the race control can ignore those procedures for what, and they don't say why there are no sort of if-then. It is such a situation at the discretion of race control, of the race director. The race director can basically pretty much do as they want in terms of being able to sort of get the race back going again, or stop the race, or do whatever they feel needs to be done. So ultimately, the race controller has total control. And race director has total control of the situation, because it was made to ensure that there wasn't sort of any incident where they could say, where if something really bad happened somewhere, that it wouldn't end up in court somewhere, and the race director could say, look, I'd have stopped the race, but I had no choice. I had to follow the rules. The rules didn't allow me the flexibility to make this common sense call, because I had to just stick to the rules. This is the sanity clause. This is
other than kicking feral animals around the place, Richard. I was just talking about all the native animals we've got here in Australia that can kill us. Other than kicking the feral ones, what's your opinion on the pantomime itself? Without the rules for a second.
I'll make one point first. First, I'm very glad there are emails, because if I was Michael Massi, I'm going to have to X-ray all my mail.
So I'll just go do one right now.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. Secondly, I think it blew up in his face. He's trying to make it a definitive decision, and every decision he made seemed to have an equal and opposite reaction. I don't think anything really went well for him over the last 3 weeks, actually.
You just can't win.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
I think that's the problem. I mean, he's gone in there. I mean, basically before the race began, Toto was saying, "Oh, I wish we had Charlie back," and effectively saying, "We've got no great faith in." We've got no great faith in Michael Massi. Christian Horner and Helmut Marko have come out and said pretty much the same sort of thing. I have no doubt that the FIA will very heavily throw their weight behind Michael and make sure that he doesn't get pushed aside. But it's going to be very hard for him in terms of, because people are going to be looking, and people have already tried to find all sorts of conspiracy theories as to why this happened, and money changing hands and all sorts of ridiculous nonsense. This was just a situation where he's made a call under an enormous pressure with lots of people yelling in his ears, and depending on which side of the fence you're on, he's either made a fair decision or he's made an unfair decision. But either way,
Donald Trump's not involved, so it has to be. Donald Trump's not involved, so it's got to be fair. Anyway.
But as
Probably also-
as Mark is pointing out, I mean, you couldn't ask for a more exciting finish because
Exactly.
I genuinely thought I was having a heart attack when that day. I was watching it live, and I got to the end of it, and I was feeling really the heart, and I thought, oh, I'm in trouble. I'd better get to my phone pretty quickly. I don't think I really did think it was that stressful. It was it really was, because it was high drama, and I think it was someone said earlier.
I couldn't believe what I was
Mark
looking
again.
at. I thought it was almost like a story. I thought it was Ferrari versus Ford or something. I thought they were making it up for a minute.
Excuse me.
Well, this is the point. That's what Tony's saying. The real winner will be Netflix. How many subscribers will be signing up for the new series, the behind the scenes series, which is one of the things that has just opened up the series, particularly to Americans. And Stuart knows and his office and a part of a thing called Office Hours on there, and a whole bunch of people in office hours were talking about, and these are people who just said, I've got no interest. I didn't know what Formula One was. I didn't know who, but oh my God! And I've had a look at how it's covered, and I've looked at the technology in the cars, and this is incredible. And they've become solid fans now. They're all saying, we really should, when they come to America, we've really got to get. Hey, there's a race in Miami. We've all got to go. And
I think
cars are shiny.
They're always
the cars are shiny.
They're always upgrading the technology with camera work and graphics and etc. Like you're all trying something different. But this year was I think obviously a couple of drivers have agreed to it, and they did a couple of races. I think Alonso did one, and I think maybe Charles Leclerc did one as well too at the end of the season. In a certain, might have been qualifying, something like that. The helmet cam of them sitting in the car doing a qualifying lap. It's right next to their eye level, and so they've got basically it's what they see on a flying lap, and you've got to take into consideration your cornering, your braking markers that you're obviously going to have a guess at what you've done beforehand through the simulator and stuff like that. You've got a halo obstructing your view to a tiny little bit, a thin line across there. You've got all this thing, but you've got the G-forces taking effect at the speeds that you're going, and obviously the size of the cornering and the angle of the cornering. It was a fantastic upgrade on a camera view and Stuart knows how he's always trying to take to the next level when we do our in-pit lane stuff. And successfully, I might say, we've had some big upgrades this year for our live streaming. But with Charles Leclerc helmet view, it was just incredible because everything else I just said, add one more factor was, and we always hear it from the drivers and we always hear it from the track officials and the preparation, is the amount of bumps in the road and the vibration of their helmets going along because of the way the car's designed as well, though, through the flooring, the tub, the carbon fiber, the aero. He's literally going along like this, and if he was to talk, it's wonder actually how they have a decent conversation with their team radio, because it is absolutely a lap is full on at the speeds they are. The amount of concentration that they have, and I must agree with Kimmy and a few others, and even obviously the local motorsport scene. They say, "Stop talking to me as I go across the mountain," was a quote that I heard in the last 2 weeks. Stop talking to me while I'm trying to concentrate. Don't talk to me while I'm going across the top of the mountain. So
I know what I'm doing.
Leave me alone.
If ever I put on our in-pit lane, our private group, it says, all the best, Kimmy, or something along those lines. We'll leave you alone. It was on the back, on the sides of his car this week. We will leave you alone
now.
I don't know if you've seen. I don't know if you've seen it, but have a look on YouTube. I hadn't seen it before. I knew he was capable of this sort of thing. But Sebastian Vettel's impersonations of Kimi Räikkönen are superb. Very, very fun. Very fun. Very funny.
He spent enough time with him.
Yeah, it's very, very funny stuff. He's got a very. Seb has a very sharp sense of humour. He's a very big British comedy fan for a German. He loves his
Don't mention the war.
He's got taste. He's got taste. I'll give him that. There's a lot of 70s and 80s English comedy, or even German comedy, that's quite good as well too. So there you go. Do you want to hear my Texas accent? Oh, so he's probably a what's the guy that does Teddy Bear and Chuckwood and David. He's probably a David Strauss. He's probably a David Straussman fan. He probably gets a few tips off him as well too.
Yeah, he's very he's actually a very funny funny.
And I think he's relaxed a little bit this year. He knows he's not in the peak teams. He knows he's not going to go set the world on fire. And I know the media love beating up and giving a great sob story and a goodwill story out to the public on, picking up rubbish and giving kids, a pat on the back and a lift across the car park and motorbike rides and stuff like that. But I think in the general consensus this year has been that he's thinking about where he sits in the sport to a certain extent. It doesn't matter. He still wants to go out there, be as competitive as possible, take the team forward, and obviously be a great influence on the drivers around him, especially his teammate. But I think he's has been a bit more at peace with himself this year and realizes on what he can give back to the world rather than just take. So
okay,
yeah.
We've got some breaking news here. That Dave's reporting that Speed Cafe have just reported Mercedes have issued a statement withdrawing their appeal against the results. So that was the right decision.
Good thing to do.
Yeah, that was from a public relations point of view and for the benefit of the sport. That was very much the right thing to do. As I said, I don't think they had really any choice, and I imagine that the higher-ups in Mercedes, particularly in the marketing division, would have been onto the Formula One team very quickly and saying, no, we don't need this. And that's what happened with Porsche in the WEC. It was basically the company itself got onto the racing teams and the racing division and said, no, we are not going. This is not going to be decided for better or worse. This is not going to be decided in a court. This is. We take our licks and we come back next year stronger than ever.
With my DJing background, I'm going to use the Beatles. Speaking words of wisdom, let it be.
Well, there you go. So that's interesting.
All right.
Okay.
So anyway, what else is happening around? I think South Australia. I don't think it's a state. It's not a state of Australia anymore. It's been dropped off the side of the earth, isn't it? Isn't South Australia doesn't matter. They've can't get a gig at the moment.
They're not going at this stage. They're not going to get a supercar, and I think this is. And I think the reason for this is. I think this is a purely political move by supercars. They want to ramp up the fact that they're sort of letting the people of South Australia know. South Australia is going to an election in the early part of the year. It's Labor Party policy to bring back the Adelaide 500. They've signed a memorandum of understanding with supercars. Supercars have very much behind that, and I think they would. I think they're pretty much saying to the people of South Australia, "Hey, if you want to see supercars again in South Australia, well, the way to do it is,
I wasn't talking about supercars. I wasn't bringing that subject in for supercars.
Well, what are we talking about?
I'm talking about the media storm that erupted last night and this morning about South Australia in motorsport.
Go ahead.
TCR's kicked them to the curb as well, though. Too. They've named their calendar yesterday and today for the 6 rounds for the year, starting in February and finishing next November. And South Australia's been dropped off the cliff as well. So
Well, you have to remember that TCR now, the ARG, are a part of supercars.
I know, but Matt Brate still had a decision. He could still put He could still put cars over there in Adelaide somewhere because there's been it didn't come from a particular source that owns a BP station an hour and a bit out of town, but the Bend has not got a TCR or supercar race as of last night for all of 2022, and I think the few people aren't happy about it by the looks of things.
Well, I'm sure they're not. But once again, it's playing politics, and this is and also the fact that we don't know what the Bend are charging. It could be like the Phillip Island scenario with supercars, because Andrew Fox and Lindsay Fox said to supercars, okay, if you think that this is such a winner, if this is such a a golden opportunity to make money, then you pay for you hire the event and you hire the venue, and you hire it for the same sort of money that we get for the Australian Grand Prix and the World Superbikes and all of those sorts of things, because this is a major event, and you make a profit out of it. Well, they did that for a very short period of time, and it was a disaster. And I think that I think supercars will be looking at the Bend and saying, yeah, okay, it might be an amazing venue. It might be FIA Level 2 accredited and all the rest of it, but it's not getting the crowds that they would like to, because it is, it's not technically in the middle of nowhere. It's actually less, it's about an hour. It's not much more than an hour from Adelaide, but by South Australian standards, that's that's miles away, and a lot of people just don't want to go there for whatever reason.
They can concentrate on their Asia Le Mans to a certain extent if they get another round of that. Obviously not next year, otherwise it'd be named. But yeah, we won't be heading over to the Bend for any particular reason next year.
Well,
at that level, those levels anyway. However, let me just finish. The TCR will be part of the much anticipated. It's finally been named. We're going to have the Bathurst International late next year in November. It'll be the last round of the TCR. You're probably going to see S5000s at the 90 horsepower deflated level as well too through the ECU. But yes, we will looking forward to the Bathurst International later on next year.
Yeah, that's going to be a round of the Tasman series. S5000, we've got it running down the bottom. If you have a look there, they've announced S5000 have announced the dates for both the Gold Star and the Tasman series. Once again, no rounds for New Zealand at this stage, but
that's probably more to the circumstances we're in with our health climate.
Quite possibly. You also see down the bottom, Grove Racing have announced that Matt Payne, the young New Zealander that they wanted they were hoping to get as their second driver for the Supercar Series, is now going to do a full season of Super 2, and a new driver will be named as Dave Reynolds' teammate tomorrow morning. So that will be announced first thing tomorrow morning. So you probably don't have to take too many guesses as to who it might be. I mean, I know who it is already, but there isn't. So I'll do the right thing, because they are going to make the big announcement tomorrow morning at about, I think it's 9 o'clock. So just be watching there, even on our site as well. We'll put it up. We'll put it up there to go to air basically as soon as that's officially announced first thing tomorrow morning.
Quick, Richie Benno, 2 for 211 they are at the moment.
Oh, 2 for 2, 2 for 2. Well, why did they get to 2 for 222?
Just grab the microphone when you say that, would you? It looks a little bit more.
And then knock two sticks together.
So, Richard,
yes.
You racing nut, you? Or what?
Yeah.
What's your plan of attack next year? Will you be in the S5000s at the Bathurst International by the end of the year?
Absolutely. I'm lobbying for full wind up of the ECU. They were too slow last year. I want to see action.
You want well under 2 minutes, not just a smidgen.
Exactly.
Speaking of performance, you can see under there that this is something that's also like absolutely amazes a lot of Americans when you see on social media, is as a result of his performances in IndyCar. Pato O'Ward was given a drive of the McLaren in the postseason test, and he has just come out and said, "Look, this is. I knew it would be fast. I knew it would be amazing. I had no idea how much faster and how much more, just how incredible these are over Indy cars." And it's freaked out a lot of IndyCar people who are just saying, "Oh, we thought it wouldn't be that much of a change," but he's just raving about it, and he's basically saying it's one of the, it's like the old song, how are you going to keep them down on the farm after they've seen Paris? Because he's going, "Oh, look, I was pretty happy in IndyCar, but oh, gee, is there any chance at all that I could get into Formula One day? I've got to look at that."
Okay.
Yeah, well, Oscar Piastri knows how hard that is.
Yes,
Oscar knows how hard it is to come. And look, I've just people are a little bit narrow-minded this week. It's fantastic. Oscar has won his super, the 2 categories previous to Formula One. He's done it 2 years straight, and
3 categories.
Sorry, 3 categories. Sorry, 3 years straight, and so forth. But everyone's saying, "Oh, it's all about money. If you haven't got money, bloody blah." one thing people have forgotten about, and I'm not saying we should go crazy on this, and I know there are only a certain amount of teams and a certain amount of money to go around too when it comes to teams, but there's not a huge field in Formula One and seats to be taken in a thing. You look at a Formula One career, there's a couple of that have gone away and come back as well too, like Alonso is probably the most famous one in years gone by. There's only so many seats there. It doesn't matter how much money you've got sometimes either, you still can't get a seat if you've got money. So you can have all the talent in the world, all the money in the world, you still can't get a seat because there's only enough certain amount of cars. So everyone just calm down a little bit. Just, Oscar will get there. And you know what? As to a certain extent, not having a year off could be beneficial or it could be bad. Whoever it is, it's going to be what it's going to be. There's nothing you can change about it. But you never know. He might get an easier upgrade, an easier seat in teams, and maybe a higher one by having a year in the position he's in anyway as well, though, too, because, in the paddock in the next 12 months, everyone's going to walk up to him and go, well done, kid, great stuff. You've done awesome the last half a dozen years. We want you. And it's going to be generating some great aurora around him.
Oh, well, I think the thing is, clearly Alpine and Renault have just decided that, they want to keep him. They didn't want to let him go, even if he had have got the offer to go to Alfa Romeo. I think that Alpine are very, very keen to keep him, and I've got no doubt that if they get to the end of this year and Alonso and Ocon decide they're going to stay around, that Alpine will find a way of finding something for him so they can keep control of him, because he is sort of like that once in a blue moon sort of talent. I mean that. They would like to have him for the long term future, and he will be a much better driver because he's going to have a year of travelling around with the circus without all of the pressure of being a full time driver, without publicly making all those mistakes. Lots of time in the simulator, lots of time in the garage, learning about the craft. Talking to people like Fernando Alonso.
Okay, on that note then, I'll quickly, while we're on the Formula One subject, most improved driver this year for Formula One.
Ooh.
I've got two in mind.
Lando?
Let's find out. Let's find out from Dave Stillwell, who has joined us from a secret location.
Most improved driver. I'm going to throw Gasly and Yuki out. Those two, I reckon they've been fantastic.
Yeah.
Yuki started well and he sort of finished well, but I think he had some trouble in the middle. Gasly has always been. Gasly is very underrated, and I think he's done extremely well.
Can I throw Carlos Sainz in the mix for most improved?
Certainly, the second half of the year, he leapfrogged over Charles Leclerc, didn't he? I mean, Leclerc was Leclerc was the golden boy at Ferrari, and now Sainz has got up and pipped him at the post. But
who do we go for least impressive run?
Oh, Valtteri just according to Brett earlier, Valtteri's just thrown himself under the bus, I think.
Well, I mean, it's no contest. I mean, Mazepin is clearly in a class of his own when it comes to
let's just on the rich.
What were you saying about having you can't get in with no money and no talent?
Yeah, well,
you can certainly get in with an awful lot of one of those things.
Yeah, there's the exception that proves the rule. Now,
just actually breaking news on Formula One too. I did read earlier. They're on 2026. They're going to change the engine module, or EBCU or ECU, whatever they've got as well though too. It's going to be changed as well though too. The last.
They're going to run on fairy dust. They're going to be powered by fairy dust.
We have more cylinders.
Can I have a think about it?
It'll be organic, vegan fairy dust. It's not dust made from fairies.
I'm ordering 20 Tinkerbells right now. Yep.
So we
need at least 4 more cylinders.
Yeah, but before we go, let's see, because we've all had our say now. Now, Dave, of course, is our.
Did we catch the news release from AMG Petronas?
Dave Howard just popped it through. Yes, he just mentioned it, which is, as we were saying before, that would be the sensible thing to do, and they have done the sensible thing.
Well, of course, tonight is also the FIA World Championship or the FIA prize giving ceremony for a number of the world championships. The Formula One, World Rally, Formula E, World Endurance Championship. So the fact that it's basically crossed off the list means obviously that everyone could go to the awards ceremony, and I'd observe from the statement that AMG Petronas or Mercedes AMG has certainly made clear, as you would expect, that they feel that it didn't pan out the way they thought it was going to pan out, and had they known it was going to pan out that way, they would have made different strategic decisions. And while I can understand that, well, unfortunately, sometimes that's the way the cookie crumbles.
Yeah,
so,
like if we'd have had the power of time travel, we would have made totally different decisions.
Where do I leave that time machine again? I'd like to Sorry, it's in the fridge.
Hello, Dr. Strange.
Love.
But there was one on the Big Bang Theory in the last couple of years. I think the boys got hold of it on that.
Yeah. But I think it's an interesting way. I'm very happy that we finished the race not under safety car. I'm sure you've already covered this at length in the program. But I think that was the perfect way to give the Formula One community and the wider sports community something to talk about for the next 2 or 3 months before we kick off with brand new cars in a new era, obviously kicking off in the Middle East again at the start of the 2022 season. And oh boy, is it going to make the final episode of Drive to Survive a hell of a thing to watch next year.
Yep, that's what we've been saying. That it will be. It was made for it. I mean, like Vince McMahon and the WWE couldn't have done any better. So there, but as someone in race control, like we sort of had our bit, putting aside like whether he made the right or wrong decision. Michael Massi's position, I've noted, as I said before, the FIA will get right behind Michael, I'm sure, and will give him full support and that. But I mean, what's his position like now? Is his position tenable under the circumstances? He's got every team owner, every man and his dog, half the media, particularly the English media, are absolutely baying for his blood. So.
That's the completely unbiased and 100% fair, impartial, and objective British media. Yeah, of course, yes. That media.
The one that on the front page all the time for all the different stuff, all the lies that they put on, and get sued their butts off.
So I've had a limited number of dealings with Michael over the years in his role as the deputy race director of Supercars and as the race director for Super 2. I was always impressed by his impartiality, his punctuality, and just maintaining a clear level head. I think what a lot of people, particularly this year with obviously the FIA radio being included in the broadcast, is that there's so many people in the world that think it's one person's decisions, and it's not. Michael's sitting next to the clerk of course, which if you were watching the broadcast was also another Australian filling in that role for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. The decisions are not made by a single person in a vacuum. They're reached as a consensus by a number of people. All the discussion throughout the year about driving standards, well, that's not up to Michael. That's referred to the stewards about whether they think it needs investigating and the results of their investigation. It has nothing to do with him. He is the conduit. And I'm fairly confident that the FIA will, weed out most of the noise. And if there do need to be some clarifications to the sporting regulations that the teams are operating under, they'll be made. And then Michael will operate within the bounds of those, just as he was operating within the bounds of what he has been provided with by the FIA and in conjunction with the teams the last 2 years since he took over from Charlie Whiting. So.
Regarding the UK press, I've got a pre-prepared statement from the late Margaret Thatcher here, and also I've got
the lady's not for turning.
I've got the dog. We've got Johnny Depp here with the dog on the dog and bone here with another pre-prepared statement that he's. Can you turn the bleeping machine on for us for a second, Brett? While I read these out about the UK press.
Yeah, let's forget it. The UK press have been, have been really. Thank God that it wasn't Dan Ricciardo involved. I mean, with the Australian
he
Clark, of
wasn't?
course, and Michael.
Everybody was, weren't they? I think everyone's to blame.
Well, Daniel wasn't happy. I mean, Daniel was the last person. I mean, he was the one who didn't get and he was sort of saying, "Hey, well," he said, "this sort of, I mean, okay, it was no." There was no sheep stations or anything else on it in the grand scheme of things. It was minor league, but as he said, he said everybody else went through. He said if they'd have let everybody through, I might have had a chance to certainly improve my position and improve our points and improve my personal points as well. So he wasn't happy about the situation. He just if the interesting thing is to go back and listen to all the radio, between the cars and the teams and the cars after the end of the race, and when they say, "Oh, by the way, Max won," and then get the responses from all the drivers. It's hilarious, hilarious to listen to.
Michael Massi has in the past in the broadcasts said a couple of times, "It's I'm not the only one making the decisions. I do have the stewards." And I'll refer it to the stewards. He has said that.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, his job is to worry about the race, but if there's a driving standards or anything like that, yes, it's his job to sort of pass it on to the people who deal with that. Just the same with with technical things as well. But I think it is going to be very hard for him to. He's not the ideal situation is if. It's like in any game of football. It's like how did the umpire goes? It's like, well, I didn't notice the umpire. That's a good umpire. Then if you don't know who the umpire was,
I'd certainly reflect that the level of coverage that the sport is given, and also the fact that it has reached such a high level of communication between different members of the teams. Charlie Whiting was a human being. Herbie Blash, his offsider, was also a human being. I'm 99% certain that their careers at the top of Formula One were not without mistakes. It's just that they weren't broadcast. And the conversations that they would have had with the team principals and the sporting principals up and down the lane would not have been broadcast for millions of people around the world to interpret. And remember, of course, you're not hearing everything. You're hearing a selection presented by a producer in the Formula One broadcast track. You're not hearing them in a linear timescale, so you're not hearing everything as it happens exactly when it happened. You're not hearing the complete back and forth. You're also not hearing every other conversation that goes on in the room. Again, you need to take everything that you've digested as a Formula One fan or a casual viewer through the coverage with a grain of salt.
Yeah, I mean it's obviously. I mean we've even seen in the past. I mean where messages have been relayed totally out of order in terms that make things a little bit more dramatic or something, because it's like, and you suddenly realise, hang on, no, he didn't say that just then. He probably said that 2 laps ago or before that pit stop or before whatever. It's it's all part of so-called reality. Any sort of reality television has nothing to do with reality, no matter what it is. So I think that the one thing that they've got to do, as we said before, is just get rid of the lobbying during the race. That the race have it like one-way communication. The race director can, unless the race director wants to talk to a team representative, that's it. Otherwise, they don't. The communication is all one way. The race director tells people what's happening, and then after the race, they can go there and they can either call him or talk to him or email him or whatever and say, "Hey, Mike, we need clarification on the following issues," and then but during the race, just leave them alone and let them get on with their job.
I'm fairly certain in a sport where they spend, each of the 10 teams has spent millions upon millions upon millions of pounds, dollars, euros, etc., refining the design of wheel nuts and valve stems and washers and nuts and bolts.
O2 sensors, guys.
Yeah. The intake oxygen sensors. Yeah, those ones.
Yeah, above me and below me. Yep.
Yeah. I'm fairly certain that there's someone in that paddock who, could come up with some form of system of sending some form of electronic text between the teams and race control, and the members in race control could review those as and if they felt necessary. Yeah, if only.
WhatsApp, they can call it WhatsApp.
Oh,
Weibo.
Yeah.
Yes, Weibo, there you go.
They'd have a particular person nominated in the race teams and not necessarily in race control to continually bombard that WhatsApp group chat. I think you would, it'd be like a scroll.
I could just imagine
it'd be like
Gunter Steiner firing all the memes in.
Oh,
and the gifts.
I think if there is an award for the most entertaining person in Formula One over this past season, it's got nothing to do with Max or Lewis or anybody else. Gunter is the guy. I mean, he has been so entertaining in terms of when they talk to him on the pit wall, or when you have a look at his Twitter or his posts on Facebook or all the rest of it. He's been an absolute delight, and it makes me want Huss to do so very well, because he's just been so entertaining.
Well, he was a standout in the first season of Drive to Survive. He suddenly became a cult hero.
Yeah, that's it. That's what those sort of programs do. Listen, we're sort of running out of time.
Well, just before we do, internationally as well, though, too, Alex Rins has come out in the last day and said, "My maximum enables me to crash." Well, you get the Captain Obvious Award this week as well too, Alex Rins. We know you're going too hard. I've said probably at least 2 or 3 occasions this year on Full Course Yellow. Play within the rules of your own ability. So, yeah, he gets the Captain Obvious Award. And another one as well, too, we've just saw some conceptual drawings, etc., for Tony Quinn's Queensland Raceway. So he's not only just cleaning the toilets there with his dunny brush at the moment, he's out there and looking at some great, beautiful decor buildings. So, yeah, good luck. Hopefully we see them by the end of next year. And just a little bit of local motorsport stuff at home as well, too.
Also, speaking of local motorsport stuff, I'm not sure. We don't seem to have Paul van der Acker with us, but I know that he's posted some stuff, and there's been a lot of stuff. There seems to be a lot of changes happening up at the Benalla Auto Club at the moment, and Winton Motor Raceway. We saw Chris Lewis-Williams leave a while ago. Now Bruin Beasley has also gone, and yes, I'm not sure what exactly is happening there, but there's certainly lots of talk of major changes up and around Winton. So I'm not sure what's happening there, but they've done a really good job, I think, over the past few years in terms of bringing that place up to top class standard. They run fabulous meetings. It's a great venue, and they've done very well. And I hope people up there don't do anything to ruin that.
Well, the disappointing thing is at the start of last year, they did that major update of a number of the track's corners in preparation for a season where they were going to see Shannon's Nationals, the Shannon's Motorsport Australia Championships, and then the Supercars. And they've been without a major national level meeting the past 2 calendar years. The good news is they're back on for a Supercars date in May, where they traditionally have their date equity. So fingers crossed they can have their first Supercars meeting in 3 years next year with campers, and the drivers actually get to race on the slightly revised layout.
Speaking of slightly revised layout, I'll just say that also today, and I reshared it on our page, saw the photos from the Oakley Kart Club and the improvements, the extension to that track up there. It looks fantastic. And as I said, guys, for the opening, a live stream I think a lot of people would like to watch that.
Cool, Brett. On that note then as well, though, too, not just Oakley. I know down at Bairnsdale, you've got the motorcycle clubs, you've got a few out Stewart's Way there and Melton Way, that sort of stuff. What I'll say is, obviously, we're going to have a break over Christmas and the New Year, and happy holidays to all the jazz, that sort of stuff, to everyone out there. But while the opportunities and things are opening up everywhere, get out to your local clubs, motorsport centres, sport, everything like that. And while you've got the opportunity back in this world, it's been a bit of a hiatus for the last 2 years for a lot of things. Get out there and have fun and support all these organisations, all these clubs, all these tracks, all this sport. Get out there, have fun, enjoy it. Buy a hot dog or a can of Coke while you're out there without breaking the budget, and enjoy yourselves, because these sorts of clubs and these venues and these organisations need a leg up as well, though, too, to start getting things ticking over and turning over. So there's lots going on. Jump on your local social media page, whether it be Facebook, Instagram, or do a TikTok dance for yourself if you want to, and get out and do these sorts of stuff around Victoria and interstate around the country while you can.
And once again, as we said to clubs, and we've been saying, for God knows, been saying this for 25 years now. Coming up, if we can come back next year, it's going to be 26 years next year. If you're a local club, if you're a local race promoter or anything like that, let us know so we can let people know, because that's what we're here for. I mean, we're not on. This is our final show of Full Course Yellow, but as soon as in pit lane, we're scheduled to come back in March next year. But once again, obviously, especially once again now, that's all up in the air. But I went to the RMI TV Christmas party on Friday, and talking to everybody there, they were saying they're really looking forward to a big year next year, and that we are definitely still in the plans, and we are definitely in terms of the studio, as the studio space and time that we've requested has been granted as far as they're concerned. But obviously, that's a lot is still up in the air about that. But as far as we're concerned, we're certainly coming back. But over the break, this is the last Full Course Yellow of this year, and probably for at least 6 weeks, at least, probably more. But that doesn't mean we're going to go away completely, because obviously if there's any live streaming happening, if we can get out, if anybody sort of, gets in contact with us, wants to live stream any speedway, or if things hopefully get back on track at Calder Park or Adelaide very soon, if we can, we will be there. So just keep following us on Facebook, keep following the YouTube channel. Remember to like and subscribe, and click the notification bell to always on, and that way when we put up stuff over the break, and I've still got stuff from Island Magic to come as well. I've started on the improved production. I just admit that after the year we've had and all that, I have not gone anywhere near the edit suite in the last 7 days. I don't, so I need a break. But ultimately, over the break, things will get put up. Hey, listen, I just want to thank everybody, while we've got everybody, for the panellists here, to Stuart and Chris, Peter, to Dave, to Doc, to Richard, everybody, and of course all of the regulars who watch the show. It's not a huge following out there. We've got a group of regulars who join us every single week, and we really appreciate your support, guys. Thank you to we got Michael Halsell, who joins us. We've also Box. Thanks to you, Box. Thanks to Russell. Really appreciate your support as well. Roy, thank you, Roy, for everything that you've done as well. We really appreciate your support both this year and one of the reasons that we are hoping to come back next year is we have support from people like Virtual R and Roy and his company, and we'll have more on that next year. To everybody, thank you so much for all your support over this year. It's been a really difficult couple of years, but we thought we came together. We wanted to try out a bit of new technology here, couple of new programs and a few things, and we thought, well, we might as well. We can, so why don't we just stream this bit of a chat? And we have, and I think I think it's been a lot of fun. So if you would like to see us back next year and to do this again, let us know. Leave some nice comments on the YouTube channel and on the Facebook page, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll all be back again for the rest of for 2022. But right now, from everybody here, thanks a lot. Have a really good break, everybody. Look after yourselves, and let's keep our fingers crossed that 2022 is much better than 2021 was. So everybody, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next year. Until then, bye for now.
Grazie, Valet. Have a great holidays.
Bye all.
Can I say yet?